me, the reason for just deciding on R over SAS was just because it was free. So if I wasn't part of the university and I didn't have access to SAS, I wanted a system that, a tool that I can use without having to pay. And that's why I chose.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's an important reason.
So now we can start. If you've not downloaded RLab 2, that's the document we'll be working with. I think Dr. Abio is going to share a link that you can use in downloading so that we can start. So let me see if I can also, I have the file and I can put it in the chat as well. Let me start click RLab 2.
Yeah, okay, got it.
Okay, so I also posted in the chat. Oh, you also posted the link.
But I think you posted the file, right? Oh, the link.
Yeah, the R Markdown file is what I posted.
Okay, yeah, so yours is probably better.
So if you have the documents open in RStudio, can you just signify by raising your hand so that we're going through it together and I'm not just running through the documents myself. Philip, did you already download you asked for a link to the RLab 2. Did you already download the document or follow the link to download the document? I just want to know if okay, yeah, great. All right. So I will start then. So title is Start 101 RLab 2. So I think this is supposed to be based on the most recent class that you've had about quantitative summaries and data visualizations, measures of central tendencies. So to start working on this document, the first thing that we should do is actually this function, this RM lists. I highlighted the function, and it's a function to remove objects in your workspace. So you can start by, if you have the code, you can just click run to run the code. And there's also this niter function as well. So this basically specifies that the code chunks should be included in the final rendered version of the document. So it's always good practice to start with these two lines of code. So when you want to start working, when you open a new working environment and you want to start some sort of new work, then the next thing to do is to set your working directory. So you can check where the working directory currently is with this, this window within RStudio. So I'm currently moving my mouse around that window in RStudio where you can see, where's the working directory? And you can set the working directory. You can use this code that I've highlighted, set working directory. In the document you've downloaded, I remember from Dr. Abioye's computer, the file path that was there was based on Dr. Abioye's computer. So you have to check your own file path. You have to check the file path within your computer and replace what's currently within those double quotes with the file path in your computer. That's one option you can use if you want to use code to set your working directory. Another option is to just come to this window, this files window, files tab in this window, and then look at this gear sign and you can say set working directory. If you think you are currently in the working directory you work from. So for me, I'll just go to documents and the specific folder, I have Stats Clinic files. Once I've gotten to this point, which is home, documents, Codecademy, Start Clinic, I can just go ahead and set my working directory. So if you've set your working directory, if you've entered this first two commands and you've successfully set your working directory, can you signify maybe by raising your hand before we continue? And if it's just 6 of us here, we can as well, if it is fine, you can unmute yourself so we can have interaction as we go ahead. Ruben, Glory, and Philip. Hi, Philip.
Hello, boss.
So were you able to set working directory, those first two commands for removing objects in your workspace, and then Nita for the global, setting the global functions for Nita?
I'm doing that now.
Okay. If you don't mind, we can also try sharing screen. So if there are any issues, we can look at that together and point it out.
Okay.
The code is essentially loaded in my own RStudio. So if there is someone who is just opening the file, we can go through that together. That can be a way. Okay, great. Did you start sharing your screen?
Yes.
Okay, because we can't see RStudio.
Oh, this
Yes,
is...
we are just looking at Zoom.
Oh, well.
So you can try, you can stop sharing your screen and basically show RStudio when you first click the share screen option in R. So you have to select RStudio or whatever window RStudio is open on your computer so we can see your screen. Okay, great. Wow, what's going on? We saw your screen and then we didn't see it again.
Can you see now?
Okay, is this? Oh, actually, that was me. Sorry. I had Zoom covering the screen, but I can see your screen now. So here it says there is an alert or that is telling you package table 1 required but is not installed. We're going to do that as we go through the document, but the first thing you want to do is the RM list function. So you could try doing that either by running the code in the code chunk up there in 789. You can run the code in the code chunk.
Oh, yeah.
You can just run the code in the code chunk.
Okay.
Okay, so the next thing is I would ignore the errors for now because we don't have, I think we installed Nita. Okay, like your RStudio shows you have Nita. So we installed Nita from the last class. I would just want to set working directory. That would be the goal now. So currently it's set at document.codecademy.startclinic. That will not work on your computer. You can see this code, set WD documents Codecademy Start Clinic. You can see that, right?
Yeah.
But that won't work on your computer because that file path is based on my own computer's folder system. Okay. So you have to go to that window, the left, right. You have to go to the right hand window. Yeah, so go to files. Exactly. So try and access where you have your R folder documents.
Oh, it's right here. So yeah.
Okay, so you might, maybe you would have a folder, because the reason why we're trying to set working directory is first, maybe the RMD file you downloaded, the RLab file you downloaded will be in that folder.
Okay.
Another thing is we're going to be working with a number of data sets. They would also be in that folder, like heights.csv is one of the data sets we'll work with in this class, and it will be in that folder. So if you have a folder already created from last time, you can go through that folder, or you can specify another folder now.
Okay. Yeah, I think
Okay, it looks like you moved the RMD file, and that's fine. You can say yes to closing the file.
yes.
And then you can open
our files.
our files.
Okay.
Open RLab 2. You can click RLab 2 and just open it. Nice. Yeah. And you can now set working directory. Set as working directory, home and R files. Nice. So I'll suggest that when you download the data sets, you put them in this folder, the same folder where you have this RLab 1, RLab 2, resident doctor CSV. You also put the files in that folder. So let me see, how do you do this now? So copy this, after you click that gear sign and you use that function to set working directory, you see what it showed you in your console area. So it has set WD, and it has I don't know what that sign is called, the approximate sign, and then it has R files. So you can copy that and replace what you have up there. You can copy that entire set WD. Yes, copy that and replace the code up there in the RMD file, in the R chunk, on that set WD. No. Go up. Yeah, so you can see on line 13.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you can replace that entire line with what you just copied. Nice. So if you try running that, it will do the same thing. It will just run that code chunk.
Okay.
And it will just, yeah. So if anybody else is trying to set working directory, that's an approach you can use. You have your working directory set. Okay, nice. So we can now go to what we're actually trying to do today. All the work in relation to measures of central tendency. Thank you, Philip, for volunteering to share your screen. So is anybody else interested in sharing screen? You can just raise your hand if you're interested. Anyway, so the next thing we have to do based on the class you add is we need to download this data set. So you can follow the link in the R file to download the data set. And then we'll start performing the next set of functions required. So you can let me know if you've downloaded the data sets. So you just have to follow this link. You have to visit the link. And then there's heights.csv and residentdoctors.csv. So alternatively, I can also just put it in the chat. If that helps. Oh, Dr. Abie actually already posted it too. So heights.csv is already there. Oh, interesting. The time on the mail was 5 p.m. Anyways, if you can also download the heights.csv from the Zoom chat and put it in your working directory. You should be able to see it here. Like on my own RStudio, heights.csv is already loaded and I can see it here. So if you have heights.csv already, we can go ahead and download. We can go ahead and start rather. So there's a library we have to load to perform the next task. So there are 2 lines of code you will enter. So first is library.csv. Basically, what this line of code does is to load the reader package. Sorry, I said library.csv. That should be library reader. So RADR. So what this is trying to do is to load the reader package. We installed the reader package from the last class. You can also check your packages window, the tab in this window area, to see that you have reader. Like I already have that loaded here, but you could just run the code from this point. So when you run the code, so you have library reader, then you are creating this object HT, basically a data set where you are importing the contents of that file you downloaded, heights.csv. So you are using this read CSV function to import the content of heights.csv into HT, which is the object you are creating. And if you remember from the last class, this is the assignment operator where it is a less than sign and dash that you use to assign values to like variables or objects essentially. So this is the next 2 functions you want to run, and you want to make sure that you are importing the contents. If anyone wants to volunteer to share their screen, I think it's more interesting that way, so I can see what's happening. You can ask questions if there's something you don't understand. I think it's more fun than me just talking and looking at my screen. Since I've already done this on my own computer, there is not so much fun in that. Will anybody volunteer to share their screen? No worries, we're all here to learn. And this programs, there are always things okay, thank you, Philip. So did you, let me see, okay, you have the library reader code running. Under packages, try searching. In the search bar, you can search for reader, READR.
Okay.
Yeah, nice. So you have the reader package loaded. So the next thing you want to do is use the read CSV function for read.csv. You can just run the code in that code chunk. You can just click the link to run the code. Nice. So that means you've imported heights.csv into your workspace. And if you look at the environment window on the right-hand corner, you will already see that you have this new object, your data set. It's telling you, okay, nice, you have it open. So now if you click it, it opens it in the left-hand side window. So you can see all the contents of that data set. So anyways, you can go back to our lab, the RLab RMD file. Nice. So the next step now is there are things you should do when you load a new data set or when you get a new data set like this heights.csv. So one of the things you can do is you can do head. There is a head function, which is like header. That's how I like to think of it anyway. So because what that function does is it shows you like a summary of the data sets that you're looking at, right? So it shows you the headers, what are the variables in that data set, that kind of thing. So usually in R, people use it to get like the first parts of objects like vectors, matrices, tables, data set, data frames. So anyways, you can run that function and see what it gives you. So go to the code chunk between line 25 and line 27. Yeah, and you can just run that code. Yeah, so you see when you run that code, basically what it does is it shows you that data set. So you can see all the variables you have there. You have 1, 2, ID, height, height 2, height 100. You have things like that basically. So then another thing you can do with the head function is to limit the amount of observations it's showing you. So right now it's showing you up to 6 rows of the data. So you can limit it to like 3 observations. So it showed you 6 observations before. So if you modify the arguments in the head function, so to the number of observation n equals 3. So ht n equals 3, right? And you run that code exactly. It shows you the same data set, but now it limits it to 3 observations. So you can also look at the variables. To look at the variable, there's another function you can use, str. The way I like to think about str is structure. So basically that function shows you the structure of objects. And so you can use it to look at the structure of a data set, structure of a particular variable. So you can run that code str-ht for your entire ht data set. And it shows you the structure of ht. So you can see the variables in ht. It tells you the types of variables. So for the first variable, ... 1, it tells you it is a numeric variable, NUM. So, and it shows you the number of observations, 96 observations for that particular variables or the frequency. Anyway, so you have, it shows you like the first few data points, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and ... for that there is more. So it does that for all the variables in the data sets. So that's kind of what that structure str function does. So usually it provides one-liner outputs for whatever arguments you are entering. So you can also use it for, you know, right now we've used it for the HT data set. You can actually also use it for a particular variable within that data set. So now we can use it for like the height variable. So you see that the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5th variable that it shows you is height, or 1, 2, 3, 4. The 4th variable rather is height. So if we want to specifically select that variable, what you just have to do is enter the $ before the name of the variable. And that will be the arguments within that str function. So exactly, so you can do str, ht, and then $, and then you choose height. Yes, and when you run that, it shows you like a compact summary, or it displays the structure of the height variable specifically. So for instance, now it tells you it's numeric, NUM for numeric. It tells you the number of observations, 96. And it gives you like the first few values and shows you that there is more. So basically, that's what you can do with that. Anyways, so if anybody is interested in sharing their screen besides Philip, you can volunteer to share your screen as well. Is anybody else interested? Hi, Glory. I think you shared your screen the last time in the last class. Okay. I think we can continue then. So now we are moving on to the measures of central tendency that you discussed in class. So mean, median, and mode. So we'll talk about how to get mean, median, and mode in R. So, okay, I could start by sharing my screen. If there's something you need, you can, if there's something you don't understand, you can just kind of mention it. I'll try and explain.
Yeah, so it looks like we may have sent out a notice that this class was starting at 1 hour time, which is like at 12 noon our time, all right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I checked the email now and I see that that's actually what happened.
Wow.
I guess what I will do is that I will send out an announcement to people so that if there are people who are just sitting and waiting, they can join.
Okay. So the measures of central tendency discussed in class, the functions are simple anyways. So there's a main function. So for instance, that particular variable we're looking at the height variable, right? So if you want to get the mean of that height variable specifically, or the height column in the data set you are assessing. So all you just have to type in is main, then the brackets, then HT for the data sets. Then remember you have to include the $sign. Okay. Okay, so you have to include the $sign to select the variable you want to assess, and then the name of the variable. So once you run this line of code, it basically just gives you the mean as a result. So you can try that. The same thing with the median. Instead of mean, you're essentially writing the same code, but instead of mean, you're writing median, and it gives you the median. So you can try that. Has anyone tried that? If you've tried that, you can just signify. And if you want to share your screen as well, please feel free to share your screen. I think these ones are simple. Just mean and median. So I want to be sure that people have done mean and median before we go on to mode. Philip, have you done mean and median?
Yes, done.
Okay. Has anybody else done mean and median?
Yes, I've done it.
Great, thank you. So the next thing is the mode. So mode in R is actually interesting. So the mode in R, there's no built-in mode function in R. So if you type in mode and you put in, HT and IT, if you try running that, you will realize that what it gives you is it gives you numeric, right? Because what it's actually doing is it's trying to tell you the internal storage mode of the objects that you are accessing with that mode function. And that's different from the statistical mode that we're interested in. So the statistical mode, the measure of central tendency mode is that we're interested in is the statistical mode. And that's not what R gives you. That mode is supposed to be, like what is the, how is it described again? Okay, so basically the statistical mode is supposed to be the value that occurs the most, like the most occurring value within your data set or within that particular variable. Meanwhile, what R does is it gives you the internal storage mode of that particular, of the data set and variable that you've entered. So to get the mode, to get the statistical mode, you will have to create a function. So it's called a user-defined function. So you have to create the function yourself. So to create the function, you will use a set of other functions to eventually arrive at the statistical mode. So there's a bunch of functions that you use as you're looking at this data set. There is unique, there is max, which max, there is tabulate, and there is match. So it uses a combination of all this to eventually generate the statistical mode, which is the most occurring value. And that's what you're looking for when you're doing mode. So basically, you can run this code and you can see what happens. That would help you generate the actual statistical mode that you need. So when you run this code, you're creating a new object, you're creating a function called getMode. So you use this code to create the function. After you've created that function, you can apply the function you've created to the variable ith in your data set ht. So, you can try that. You can run this code and then run getMode or enter getMode in your console. Then it gives you the mode of the variables in that data set, the variable you selected in the data set. Does anybody want to share their screen just to see that we've gotten that? Otunaya Temitope, do you want to share your screen?
The problem is I'm using Zoom on my phone, then doing it on my laptop. So there's no way I can share.
I see. No problem. Thank you, though.
Okay. Sorry, sir. But yes, I have done it and I've gotten it. But I have a question.
Okay, please go ahead.
Is there a way we can save this code for this mode, like permanently? or you have to run this code every time you need to do a mode?
So there are two ways that you can go about this. The first thing is you can save this code and you use this code every time you want to generate a mode. The other thing is there are packages that you could download that are available in R that helps generate mode. And there are some other packages that we will talk about where with that package, you try, instead of entering main median mode, we'll talk about it as we go through the documents. You will essentially just use a particular function and it will give you the summary of the data. So it will give you things like mean, median, mode, standard deviation, 25th percentile, 75th percentile, all of those, the summaries that you are usually looking for when you are looking at a data set. So it will generate that for you. But this is like a code that you can use to create the mode function, statistical mode specifically in R. Is there any other question?
I understand. Thank you, sir.
Okay, great. Is there any other question? So the extra thing that we can talk about here is like now you created this function get mode, you use it to generate the statistical mode for the height variable within your HT data set. Instead of outputting the results immediately, you can actually store that within an object. So like it may be a new variable or